Welcome to this YouTube video today that we're doing, which is sponsored by LifeWave.
Yeah, excellent.
Yeah, Kevin introduced me to this amazing product, LifeWave, that is a patch. I have it right now underneath my navel.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I
and I
love my
love it.
patches. I wear it every day. You know, if you're over 50 years old, most of us suffer from pain, some kind of chronic like arthritis or joint pain, and patches are incredible. It took my pain from an 8 to a 2, like in 5 minutes. So I actually look forward to putting my patches on every day. So love it.
They're amazing. Yeah, and there'll be a link below where people can check it out. But Kevin and I met, and he's a travel expert who is also an author of a book called The Contract. You can find that on Amazon, Kevin Fitzgerald, The Contract, and it's pretty interesting. I've read it myself. And he traveled the world. Wasn't it kind of all over the world a bit with David Wilcock?
Yeah, so David was one of my first people that I started doing sacred journeys with, and I didn't know David. I just reached out to him, and this was before David was super popular. He was just moving from. He was living with that gal from the Law of One. Oh, what's her name?
Oh, right. Yes, he lived with them.
Yeah.
Talk about it.
And he was just moving out to LA. And I reached out to him before he was going to go on coast to coast. And our first trip together was a cruise, believe it or not. And then I ended up doing trips with him for over 7 years, organizing all his journeys around the world. Yeah.
Wow. So you know the real story about David Wilcock, because he's such a fascinating.
Oh, me and David are good friends. Yes.
Yeah. And he's amazing information that he comes
and he's a great guy. He's a very heart-centered guy. He's the real deal. He truly does care about humanity.
Interesting. Well, he claims he's also the reincarnation of Edgar Cayce, maybe.
Well, yeah, there was a book written about him, about being the reincarnation of Edgar Cayce, and he does believe that, absolutely. And there's a lot of evidence pointing to that truth. So that really put him on the map initially. And of course, his scientific work, David really focuses on the scientific work, and he integrates the scientific with the spiritual and with quantum physics and mythology, right? That's what makes him so great. He's a brilliant person. And he's very good at articulating esoteric truths.
Right. And he seems
as they relate to everyday life. Yeah.
And he has like a photographic memory. He's so full.
Yeah, he does. He's a walking encyclopedia.
Unbelievable. So you're going to talk to us today about your trip to Glastonbury with him and the stories of King Arthur.
Yeah. So, one of the trips we did is we decided to go to England, and England, we're fascinated by crop circles, believe it or not, was the intent. So crop circle time is a very small window. It's like mid-June to early August. And I didn't know this at the time, but most, like 80% of crop circles happen in like one town called Wiltshire.
Wow.
And they actually have planes that go up every morning to look for new crop circles, because during the season, they happen immediately because it's an energetic movement, right? So I took David there, and we actually investigated. We were there for about 4 days, and we investigated about 4 crop circles. And one of the crop circles, we were the first ones in there. It was early morning. It got radioed, so you listen, monitoring the radios. One showed up. Boom, we were there. We were the first ones inside that crop circle to feel the energy of it, to walk it, to say a prayer in it. So it was super cool. But we also investigated King Arthur mythology. So we went to Glastonbury, and we went to the Tor, which is the masculine, divine masculine. It's like a phallic symbol, castle on a hill, which would represent the male energy. And then Glastonbury represents the feminine. And of course, the chalice well is there. And it was really, really powerful.
Are there a lot of sort of paranormal things that happen there? UFOs?
Well, England has one of the highest levels of Christ conscious energy, right? So it's a very, Jesus went to England with Joseph of Arimathea, who was his uncle, and
Right.
he had tin mines in England, and so
Well, and they
uh,
stuck a stick in the ground that turned into a tree, which they felt was a sign. I was looking at YouTube last night.
there's a tree by the Chalice Well that blossoms for like one day on the same day every year.
Wow.
It's like really interesting.
Wow.
And of course, King Arthur mythology is the whole Holy Grail, right? So, I'm connected in King Arthur mythology in a couple ways, in the sense that when I had my spiritual epiphany back in 2001, I was downloaded with a lot of information from King Arthur, which is really the journey of the soul, or the awakening of the soul. So, the Holy Grail really is your mind, right? So your mind is a cup, right? So your mind holds either the ego, or it's going to hold divine spirit, right? So in humanity, to experience duality, our mind is divided. So there's the higher consciousness or higher mind, and then there's the lower consciousness, right? Where the ego is. So imagine your mind is split, with one part of your mind downturned, not receiving from above.
Right.
So the Holy Grail is, reintegrating the lower mind with the higher mind, but you got to empty the mind out, or you got to purify yourself first, which means you have to transcend the ego identity so that you reintegrate the higher and lower mind, and you become a chalice or a conduit for the Christ vibration or grace, right? The energy of grace. And now that can flow through you, and that's heaven on earth, right? So when you're in the world but not of the world, it means that you're no longer identified with the lower self. You are now identified with your higher authentic self, and you're connecting to the sacred heart, or the 0 point field. And it's a vertical connection, energetic connection, and now you're that conduit.
Very nicely explained. Totally aligned with my belief system too.
Yeah.
Very nice. Now, what does that have to do with King Arthur, though? He came along after the Dark Ages.
Well, let's talk about King Arthur. So you have, I'll make the connection for you. So it's all about mythology and the journey of the soul. So think of it this way: there's King Arthur, and he had the 12 knights in the Round Table. So King Arthur was 13. 13 is the number for claiming your divinity. Jesus had 12 apostles. Jesus was 13. He claimed his divinity. Moses had the 12 tribes of Israel. Moses was number 13. He claimed his divinity. There's 12 signs of the zodiac. The sun is number 13, which is everything revolves around the sun. So King Arthur represents the mastery. When someone claims their mastery, they become their own king. Their kingdom is their mind. They become the ruler of their mind, because now they've reintegrated their kingdom.
Right.
The higher mind with the lower mind. And the key of doing that is forgiveness. What opens your heart is divine forgiveness that separates time from eternity, so that you can use your free will to align with the eternal and release the temporal, in the sense that you transcend it, or it's no longer your attraction point. Your attraction point becomes your I am self, or your higher self, your authentic self, as God created you, which is eternal. And that is actually also the fountain of youth. Because when you can tap into the higher 0 point field, you're bringing in higher vibration, which rejuvenates you. And so that's also the fountain of youth.
Right.
And in the mythology of King Arthur, he forgave Guinevere, or the divine feminine. She represented the divine feminine of the lower mind, the receiving aspect, because the feminine receives from a male, right? So she was the receiving aspect. He forgave her, which is symbolic of emptying out the illusion of the self, and transcending it, and that opened his heart. And so he went from aligning with conditional human love to unconditional divine love and being centered in the heart and not the head. And that's the key to aligning your higher 3 chakras with your lower 3 chakras. They align in the heart. So your lower 3 chakras align with your subconscious mind. Your higher 3 chakras are aligned with your higher mind. So when you open the heart, you reintegrate your mind, and you also, from a body standpoint, you're unifying your chakras. That's what enables you to be a conduit.
Well, and when it's, a lot of people talk about activating your light body, which I feel like I kind of went through that process when I had a spontaneous healing of cancer many years ago, because every cell in my body seemed to change. And there was even a little speck in my iris that disappeared when it happened.
What happened when you have a spontaneous healing, for that moment, you opened yourself to the 0 point field of the Sacred Heart, and a rush of eternal energy came in. That energy is perfect energy. So when you bring in perfect energy and it meets imperfect or disease, when you have a disease, it's an imperfect vibration. It neutralizes that imperfection or spontaneously heals you, right? So that's what spontaneous healing is. A lot of times it can be achieved through humor and just deep faith that releases fear. So when you have deep faith in wanting healing and you combine that with humor, a lot of times that can trigger a spontaneous healing because you're no longer in the vibration of fear around that illness. You've raised your vibration through humor, and your intent is to heal, and that was enough to have an opening for a very short period of time to allow that energy to come in.
Well, and when you reach that place where you understand that you're creating your own reality, be it good or bad or in between with your consciousness and what you're putting your intentions on, I quickly realized I had created this with my negative fear-based thinking. And all I had to do was switch my beliefs to, I'm the perfect child of God. Perfect health is my birthright. And that worked.
And then when you get to a point where that is your complete attraction point, where you're not wavering between both, which is really mastery or enlightenment, right? You can say you're a perfect child of God, but when you really believe it and start to discipline yourself to reflect it with your words, thoughts, and actions, then you're claiming it. And that's where the magic really begins. And that's the journey of every soul, is to get to that point where they now recognize the truth because spirit has brought them along their own pathway to the truth. And then they use their free will to now start to align with that truth, with their words, thoughts, and actions. Right. But usually, initially, that's not the easiest thing to do because we're so conditioned to worry. We're so conditioned to control our lives. Control is an aspect of fear. Worry is an aspect of fear. So a lot of times we're in that lower vibration and we don't even know it. So you have to bring that awareness in and realize that control and fear and worry are all the same energy. And you have to release that through divine surrender and trust. So you got to trust something that's invisible to your lower 3 senses, but is yet more real than what your lower 3 senses are showing you, which is divine spirit, or some people call it the Holy Spirit.
Well, I called it taking the leap of faith because I'd already proven to myself that I could think a certain way and attract into my life experiences, places to live, whatever I needed at the time would magically show up. But I couldn't make that connection. Well, how do you control the cells in your body? I couldn't figure out how that could.
Well, see, you got to get rid of the word control. And,
right.
And so you don't want to control the cells in your
body.
It's
letting go. It's totally letting go.
It's letting go and then visualizing and feeling the perfection and health of your cells in the body. Yeah. Knowing that it's a power greater than yourself that's coming from yourself, your higher self, that really will take care of everything.
Exactly. And that's the thing I like about these patches, because they're not putting anything into our bodies. They're made out of crystal and they stimulate our stem cells, which I guess diminish as we get older,
Yeah, yeah. So basically, we're light beings, right? And especially
Right.
as you start to raise your consciousness, what happens in the body? You start to activate DNA. What happens when you start to activate more DNA? Well, DNA emits light. That's why a lot of like prophets and very spiritual people have the halo around them, images of the halo. That means that they're fully activated, or at least over 50% activated DNA. So they're fifth dimensional or above at that point. So when you have these patches with the nanocrystals, what do crystals do? They amplify energy. So your body's emitting infrared light. When it hits those crystals in the patch, the nanocrystals, that energy is reflected and amplified back into your body, thus increasing your body's light quotient. And depending upon the spectrum, has an impact on your body, which, for example, the X39 patch stimulates the copper peptide that is responsible for your stem cell circulation, creation, and health. That's how it works.
It's pretty interesting. And there's nobody else doing this. It's the only product out there like this.
It's the only product out there like this. And your only other alternative would be getting somebody else's stem cells injected into your body at a cost of $8,000 to $12,000. So you don't want that. And when you hit 50, your stem cells are at only about a 30% optimal rate. That means they're 70% not working the way they were working in your 20s and 30s. So basically what these X39 patches are doing, they're resetting your stem cell activity back a couple generations to when activity levels when you were in your 20s and 30s. That's why me personally, I'm 60 as of tomorrow, and I'm lifting heavier weights now than when I was 21.
There you go.
And I put on 10 pounds of muscle, which is very hard when you're our age, right?
Right.
But it's because I'm taking these patches and I take nothing else.
Well, I totally believe that they're doing something for me because I was taking naps, a couple of them during the day. I have so much more energy, and I've only been on the patch for like 3 weeks.
Yeah.
I just found it, but I turned a couple of people onto it already. They are raving about it.
Yeah, right. George and Tom. Yeah, they're having a great time with it. Yeah. It works.
Working.
It works. I mean, bottom line is, I would tell people, try it, especially if you're in chronic pain, right? Because I had scoliosis and arthritis in my spine and degenerative disc. Since I've been on the patches, my pain went from an 8 to a 2, and now I'm back in the gym full force. I would never be able to do that if I wasn't taking these patches. So
and
the pain patches
for pain. Talk about the pain.
Well, you have pain patches, which will reduce your pain from an external standpoint. So it's part of my pain protocol. Now, when you wear them in combination with the X39, that's the 1-2 punch, because the X39 starts to heal and repair your body from the inside out. So you're dealing with your pain from the outside, and then the X39 starts to heal your body from the inside. That's the ideal situation you want to be in. You know, dealing with your pain, wound healing, facial issues, externally, but also internally.
Even horses and dogs, I've seen videos where they get immediate results when they put the pain patch on an animal that's had some problems.
And what does that tell you? That tells you that it's not a placebo effect, meaning we've done over 100 double-blind studies that prove this technology. It's scientifically proven. But when you put it on an animal, it has the same effect right away. And the animal they don't know the difference. They don't even know the patch is on them.
Exactly.
Right? It's on the back.
They can't fake it.
They can't see it. They can't fake it. right? So it's powerful stuff.
It's very interesting. Well, I'm so excited that you brought it into my life, because, you know, I had no idea it was out there, and it's working. It's definitely.
Yeah. So I would say to your audience, anyone who's interested, me and you would be more than happy to work with them and get them sampled and see if we can't, you know, alleviate some suffering and get them their stem cells, you know, back at optimal levels.
Well, do you think you'll ever start up your travel expert? I know we've just went through three.
Well, I have for the people on my wellness team, we're going to start doing cruises and tours together. Yes, I am doing that, but I'm not doing it at the level I was when I owned my own travel company. But I will be incorporating 2 to 3 trips a year because I love to travel and I want to travel with like-minded people that are spiritually aware and also health conscious.
Being a retired flight attendant, that's what I'm looking for, is a group to travel with that's
Yeah.
like-minded.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
excellent.
Yeah,
Excellent.
that'll be fun.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Great. Well, this is great, Kevin. I'm so glad you got to share some of your information about David Wilcock. That was fascinating.
Well, in later episodes, I'll tell you more stuff because we did 7 years worth of traveling. So there's a lot of stories.
Very
a lot of good times. Yeah.
good. All right. I'm going to put the link for your book down below. And they can also go to the LifeWave link and check it out. And it's very inexpensive compared to other.
It's less than a cup of coffee a day.
Exactly. Very.
And if you don't have your health, you have no wealth.
You're absolutely right. I know people that are really hurting. It's kind of like the market is wide open.
Yeah.
But thank you. And
all right, Rebecca, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
All right. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Have a great day.
Bye.